US President Donald Trump expressed disappointment over the appointment of Mojtaba Khamenei as Iran's supreme leader. Trump said the appointment of Ayatollah Khamenei's son as a successor will only lead to more problems for Iran. Mojtaba Khamenei has so far not issued any statement about the ongoing war or Tehran's strikes targeting US assets in Gulf countries. Responding to a question on the new supreme leader, Trump said that when the United States is done with the military operation against Iran, the country will no longer have any weaponry capable of targeting the United States.
Supreme leader, do you have to take him out? Does he have a target on his back?
You mean the new supreme leader? You mean the son?
How can there be an Iran?
Well, I don't want to say that, but you know, I was disappointed because we think it's going to lead to just more of the same problem for the country. So I was disappointed to see their choice.
Earlier, Iran's foreign minister ruled out talks with the US and said that speeches and comments from the new leaders will come at a later stage.
And since his selection, has he or anyone in your leadership had any contact with U.S. officials? Is that something that he is open to talk about negotiations or a ceasefire?
Well, first of all, it's too soon, for him to make any comment. We are all waiting for his speeches and comments, which would come later on. But I don't think the question of talking with Americans or negotiation with Americans once again would be on the table, because we have a very bitter experience of talking with Americans.
Weighing in on Iran's appointment of Mojtaba Khamenei as successor to his father, a West Asia analyst said it reflects a dominant hardliner stance and serves as a wake-up call to US policy under President Donald Trump. He added that Mojtaba's appointment is a clear message to Trump and a reflection of the fact that the hardliners in the system now have the upper hand.
Whatever is left of the Islamic Republic leadership clearly is saying a big no to Donald J. Trump. They are instead opting for continuity inside their regime. And in fact, I think they're doing more than that. They're essentially saying to Trump that they're not going to be persuaded by his pressure campaign that we're seeing unfold, which is happening obviously mostly militarily, but also through the political messaging that Donald Trump has sent to Tehran over the course of the last 8-9 days now. So the appointment of Mojtaba Khamenei is the reflection of the fact that the hardliners in that system now have the upper hand.
To discuss more on this, we are being joined by Dr. Rohan Gunaratna, who is Professor of Security Studies at the Rajaratnam School of International Studies in Singapore. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us on the broadcast. Now, US President Donald Trump makes multiple comments over the last few days on the matter. Now, his latest claim, sir, says that he can take over the Strait of Hormuz, which is critical for not just global geopolitics, but also the economy. So is that possible, and how will Iran potentially react to it?
Iran has a very significant military capability, including a naval capability. But the United States, the US military has destroyed a very significant percentage of the Iranian seagoing capabilities. So right now in the Straits of Hormuz, the Americans have a very dominant presence, and they are deterring the Iranian naval vessels. The Americans have destroyed about 42 Iranian vessels, and it is very likely that the US will attempt to control the Straits of Hormuz in the coming days and the coming months. However, Iran is also able to respond and attempt to compete with the United States in dominating the Straits of Hormuz. Certainly in the Straits, we will witness attacks by both parties in the coming days and coming weeks.
So you mentioned the Strait of Hormuz and how it is likely to witness attacks by both parties, that is the US, Israel, as well as Iran. Now, how do you think, sir, the West Asia, the Gulf countries will react to this, since it has now emerged as the new epicenter of the war in West Asia? Can it force another global crisis?
Iran's position is very clear. Iran will continue to attack and inflict pain on the Gulf countries, especially countries that produce gas and oil, because Iran wants to disrupt their production and supply capabilities to the rest of the world. Iran wants the Gulf countries to put pressure on the United States and Israel to stop their military campaign against Iran. But that is unlikely to happen. President Trump's remarks just a few hours ago very clearly demonstrates that the US will continue to strike, will continue to work with Israel in dismantling the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, which is the dominant military security and intelligence organization in Iran. In addition to that, the United States has expressed their displeasure of the appointment of Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of Ali Khamenei, as the new supreme leader, who has both the spiritual and the political as well as the military authority over Iran. So it very much depends on what is going to happen in the next 24 hours, because Mojtaba Khamenei will also issue a statement after his appointment in the last 48 hours.
So, as you mentioned, there is now a growing changing of dynamics when it comes to the war. And now we're well into the second week. We're now into day 11, in fact. So there is a growing concern around oil prices and supply. Under the new circumstances, in terms of the pressure, who is feeling the pressure more? Is it the US-Israel side, or is it the Iran side? Who is feeling the pressure more of the ongoing war, sir?
The biggest pressure is on Iran. The second biggest pressure is on the Gulf countries and, of course, the Middle East in general. And, of course, Israel is very significantly affected, but Israel is a very resilient state. It will continue to fight the Iranian regime, because for Israel, they want to see regime change in Iran, because as long as the current Iranian regime is developing a functional nuclear weapon, developing missile capabilities, and also supporting the proxies, the terrorist proxies, it will affect the security and stability of Israel as well as other countries. So overall, there is a very significant move on the part of the Middle East to change the existing regime in Iran. I do not think that there will be any talks in the immediate term, because the US and Israel is determined to dismantle the fissile, the missile, and the capabilities of IRGC that has been supporting terrorism over many years.
All right, final question, sir. You mentioned the Gulf countries. Now, when it comes to the GCC countries, there seems to be a growing frustration among the Trump administration when it comes to their supposed lack of active involvement in terms of an offensive. So is that going to be a problem for the US, given Lindsey Graham's comments on Saudi Arabia recently?
The Middle Eastern countries work very closely with the United States. Almost all the Gulf countries have a presence of US military forces, and the US is currently protecting those countries. US has given them both offensive and defensive capabilities. So the Gulf countries and also countries like Jordan, like Turkey, will continue to work with the United States to contain, isolate the state, the regime in Iran, and at the same time, they will try to create the conditions for there to be regime change. But regime change is very difficult without having a ground presence of foreign forces, because the uprising itself in Iran, the protesters are insufficient to create a regime change, because the IRGC has been very brutal against the protesters. Between 10,000 to 30,000 protesters have been killed, many of them shot in their faces or in their groins. So what we are seeing is the military capabilities of IRGC still remains intact, although it has depleted. So US and Israel will continue to strike Iran and will continue to demand a change of regime without deploying ground troops.
All right, Dr. Gunaratna, thank you so much for those insights. We'll, of course, continue tracking this new growing dynamics of the war. That was Dr. Rohan Gunaratna saying that the Strait of Hormuz will see imminent attacks from all parties. Moving on now.